Clarence Waldron. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Black Muse. Tonight's guest, tonight's guest is the legendary Angelo Ellerbee, publicist to the stars. He's also the founder of the Double Exposure public relations firm. His clients have include right now Dionne Warwick, of course, the late Frankie Beverly, Melba Moore. These are just a few of the newer faces, but he goes way back. And let me just stop now and let Angelo tell his story. How are you?
I'm blessed, Clarence, and I want to thank you and your team of professionals for considering to have me on your platform. And I say thank you very, very much to the whole team of professionals that's behind this wonderful, wonderful platform. God bless you all.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. So let's go with your new motivational book. Before I let you go, what inspired the book, Angelo?
What inspired this book was the world and the content of what this world is about at this particular time. You know, we as human beings forget where we were born and how we were born and how we were raised.
Hmm.
We are gifts of God, and we're not a given of God. We're gifts of God. We are very judgmental people. We like to separate, discriminate. This book is about that layperson, that drug addict, that alcoholic, that in prison, domestic violence, HIV and AIDS victim. This book is no more a template of my life and the celebrities that I've worked with. This book is about you and people like you. I particularly focused in on Black and Brown people because I wanted to inspire them. I wanted to tell the stories of the Mary J. Bliges and the Dionne Warwicks of the world and the Michael Jacksons only as examples as to what I did for them and to inspire and educate and stimulate and motivate
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I like this quote that you have in the book. I got here because I took the stairs. I got here because I took the stairs. Can you elaborate on that? I love that.
Sure, I think that what happens so many times, so many people are more ambitious than they are ambitious. And I think they lose a train of thought as to, I wanted like a cup of instant coffee. I've never had instant coffee. I always had brewed coffee. I wanted to see the granules grate up. I wanted to pour my milk in and make sure my milk was nice and hot. So what I'm saying that it took time. I took the steps. I never ever got on the elevator and I never took the escalator. That means that that's fast. You can get to your destination really fast. I don't want to get nowhere fast. I want to take my time. And I took
Mm.
step by step by step. And each step, I learned something. Each step, I learned something different. I learned how to handle what I needed to handle. And those steps, I was able to give those steps back to all of my employees, to all the young kids that I go lecture and speak at. I want them to understand. I know Andy Warhol said that everybody was a star for 15 minutes, but he never said what happened after the 15 minutes. What do you turn
Mm.
into then?
Mm.
I could be for social media and I could be against social media. And I don't, I've gotten the question is, what's the difference in social media and PR? Why are you comparing the two? Because they're two separate things. Social media is just what it is, post. Publicity, as I see it, and I've been doing it for 55 years, it's strategy. I don't read bios and I don't listen to music. I don't believe in it. I think that bios are a bunch of lies, and I don't need to listen to your music because I don't sell music. I sell talent. I sell talent. I don't listen. I don't. Why am I listening to your music?
Mm.
So what happens is that I'd rather talk to my client's mother and father, sisters and brothers, because they're going to give you the real bio. They're going to tell you the truth. right? They're going to tell you what she likes, what he likes, what they don't like, how difficult they were growing up, how they are now, what colors. The family's going to give me all of that. So when I get able to get on the phone and start to talk and do cold calls to journalists, I can just go from the cuff, from the top of my head and tell them what this artist is about. And then I'll say at the end of the conversation, let me send you the music because they need the music. I don't need the music.
Okay.
They need to read the bio, but I gave them the verbal bio. So we really got to begin to understand when we say that we are publicists, we really got to be that. And we can't just think that social media or taking your client to a party is publicity. It's not. Introduce yourself to the journalistic community. Know who they are. Do your cold calls and introduce yourself. Send them a thank you card when you get off the phone with them. Send them flowers on their birthday. Oh wow, the big day is coming. The love day is coming. It's Valentine's Day. Save your money up, you young publicists. Order 40 boxes of candy and send it to all the journalists that would not pick up the phone for you. When you give somebody something, it is protocol that somebody has to call and say thank you. Unless they were raised by it wasn't raised by a human being, you have to call and say thank you. What a way of introducing yourself.
That's deep. I like that. I like that. Let's start with your roster of clients, and let's start with the Miss Dionne Warwick. How did you meet her?
You know, it was so funny. There was a wonderful attorney by the name of Kendall Minter called me up and he says, I represent Angela. He went to this to Angela. I represent Chuck Jackson. And Chuck is doing a duet with Dionne Warwick. And we was trying to figure who could deal with this diva. And I go, diva? He said, yeah, we're going to have two divas, you and her. And we just thought that you and her would be a great mix. So on my birth certificate, it says Angelo Antonio Ellerbee, right? So Miss Warwick knew that my name was Angelo Antonio. So I went to this hotel to meet her. And when I got in front of the hotel, of course, there were fans out there. And she was talking to some of them, signing some pictures. And I said, oh, hi, Miss Warwick, how are you? And she said, hi, how are you? Nice meeting you. And I said, oh, Miss Warwick, I'm Angelo. And when I said, I'm Angelo Ellerbee. And she says, well, nice meeting you. And she scooted herself right into that hotel. And then I went and said, no, Miss Warwick, I'm Angelo Antonio Ellerbee. She said, I thought you was white.
Ooh, y'all.
I said, no, Miss Warwick, I'm not white. So she went and she checked herself into the hotel and they sent a white limousine.
Uh-oh.
And she said to me, do you mind if we catch a cab? She said, why don't we send that car over to the creative people? She said, well, my brother, I do not get in no ice cream trucks. And I said, ice cream truck? She said, that's what I look at white limousines as, a big old ice cream truck. So we got a cab. Well, when we got a cab, she didn't know I was from Newark, and I didn't know she was from East Orange, was around the corner from Newark. She said, you from Newark? I said, yeah, Miss Warwick, I'm from Newark. Bah, 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 da, da. We had such a conversation. Oh, we had such a good conversation. We laughed, we giggled, we laughed, we giggled. When we got to do the video, we were doing the Chuck Jackson video. We got there, and my very dear friend Byron Barnes was the makeup artist, and another good friend of mine was the hairdresser. And we all just got together, and she made us feel so very comfortable. And strangely enough, a week later, I got a call from a gentleman by the name of Henry Carr. Now, I don't know if Henry was her manager, her acting manager, but I know that he worked in her office. So he says, Angela, Miss Ward wants to know if you would consider to represent her. And I go, what? Absolutely. That was 39 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
39 years ago. So yeah, that is my Dionne Warwick story.
That is a story. That's a story because that's a long time for Deanna to keep a publicist. I mean, you're the longest running publicist that Deanna's had. I believe. I believe it is true. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, what the wonderful thing is that we conduct business. We do business, then we're friends.
Mm.
She is no nonsense when it comes down to doing business. And I'm totally no nonsense when it comes down to doing business and getting the money and giving her opportunities away from interviews, trying to get her in TV, trying to get her in film, trying to get her. Those are the things that young publicists need to know. It's just not about the magazines and the TV outlets in terms of talk shows. You want to make sure that you have such a relationship with your client that you would think outside of the box. And in thinking outside of the box, maybe it's a film that I can get them into. So let me just write some letters to some producers and some production companies. Oh, maybe she can do some jingles. Maybe let me do that. Because now I always looked at the importance of my clients was to spoil them. I wanted to spoil every single client that came my way. Because you know what? I had a staff of 29 people that I took care of, that I made sure their children went to college, made sure their mothers and fathers, it was my responsibility. So I couldn't just do publicity. I had to do whatever it took to feed these 29 people and make my clients happy. So you got to think outside of the box.
Okay. Now you also just recently added Melba Moore to your roster of clients. How did that come about?
Well, here we go again. Strangely enough, um, I got a call from Miss Moore herself,
Hmm.
and she knew of me. And of course, who doesn't know Melba Moore, legendary Melba Moore? We start calling her the marvelous Melba Moore.
Yeah.
And she called me up on the phone and she says, well, would you talk to my daughter? My daughter is very interested in you representing me. And I said, oh, sure. But why do I have to talk to your daughter? I'll do it. She said, well, I want you to come down and talk to my daughter and talk to some other people. So I went down to this fabulous restaurant that I go to every weekend. It's called the Waterside Restaurant, and it's in Edgewater, New Jersey. And so I got there, and there was one gentleman there that was going to test me, and say to me, are you sure that you can do this? And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at him and I'm looking at him. He said it about 10 times. Okay. Now you're making me take my hat off and I got to get with you. I said, sir, if you don't know who you're speaking to, don't speak. If you don't know a history of a person that you're dining with, don't say nothing. And maybe what you should do is pardon yourself and go Google. Then come back and I will excuse you. That was the beginning of my representation of Melba Moore. And it's been now about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
always believe, Mr. Waldron, that how you start is how you finish. I'm
Hmm.
not taking your mess and you ain't taking mine. So let's put it on one plane. It's called business. If
Yes.
we can do business, that's all we need to do is taking care of business.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I remember a family friend used to say, get things started the way you want them to end.
there you
Same
go.
idea. Get things
Yeah,
started. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you also handle the late Frankie Beverly. What kind of publicity strategy did you think of to deal with him? Because that was his last tour coming up and all that. Talk
Yeah,
about
you know,
Frankie
it
Beverly.
was really like here's another situation. Um, I didn't know who Frankie Beverly was. I really didn't. I know people are going to say, "Oh, yeah." I did not know who he was. I didn't. I was not familiar with his music. Um, and then I started asking my staff, and it was like, "Oh my God, Angela, you don't know that?" And I go, no, tell me. And they said, start playing the records and stuff. I was like, oh, I never heard these records. Anyway, I get a call from his manager. It was a lady by the name of Deborah Pugh, who was also Frankie's cousin and who loved Frankie immensely and was very protective of him and all the concerns around Frankie Beverly.
Mhm.
And I have never in my career ever got interviewed by anyone, but I felt like I was in an interview with her. And so I said, as I say to my clients, we don't do interviews. We have conversations. Let's have a conversation. Because when you're having a conversation, you have to listen to the person that you're speaking to. And in return, they have to listen to you. And in the middle of all of that, there's a solution. And so they asked me if I would consider to represent Frankie. And they said, Angela, he's so unsung. Blah, 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 blah. All Frankie wanted is to be recognized for his contributions globally. We need to bring, and I spoke to them about the awareness campaign. And I remember my first meeting with Mr. Beverly, which was really, really special. And I looked him dead in his eyes and I said, Mr. Beverly, can I say something to you? He said, absolutely, young man. If you give me that hat you got on your head, that's what he said. And you could say anything. I said, well, you can have the hat. Anyway, I said, Mr. Beverly, I've listened to your music back and forth, and I had to listen to his music on this one. I said, is your music more gospel? And he looked at me and sat up proudly and said, you're the only one that has been able to figure it out. Yes, it is. He said, yes, it is. I said, so you put it in a tone and a delivery that would be palatable for everyone, correct? And he says, wow, yeah. I said, okay, I understand it. And then I made a commitment to him. I said, Mr. Beverly, I'm going to promise you this year alone, you're going to get about 8 or 9 different awards. He looked at me and said, oh man, you can't do that. I said, Mr. Beverly, trust me when I tell you, is that all you want out of life? He said, that's all I want.
Wow.
And I go, well, okay, you got it. And I started to get on the phone and talk to the people from, oh my God, from Soul Train Awards to BET Awards to, oh my God, the NACP Awards. He got every Black award that they were to give out. The wonderful thing, I mean, now that he's gone, you have Billboard now giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award. So it's all about an awareness campaign. People needed to know him. They needed to see him. They were not seeing this magnificent man. There was no interviews, or unless you had to go back in the archives of when it was uh, Frankie Beverly and Mays, and now turned into Frankie Beverly with Mays, right? So he went to do all of these. I mean, he got up on the stage, and all he could say is thank you, and thank you, and got a standing ovation. And everywhere he went, he was going to get an award. I called him on the phone and said, I guess you're not too unsung these days, Mr. Beverly. He said, Angelo, you crazy. He said, young man, I just want to thank you. We made sure that Philadelphia honored him in a street renaming that brought everybody in the world out. He deserved to have that. So many of our Black and brown celebrities need to be given flowers now. We need to love them now. Don't give me nothing when I'm dead and gone. What are you giving it to me for? I can't see it, hear it, or feel it. So let's start to honor each other now. Let's look at the Gladys Knights and the Patti LaBelles and the Dionne Warwicks and the Melba Moores and the Robert Cool Bells. All of these people need to be loved. They need to be shared. Their history needs to be told. That's what we need to be doing as a collective. You know, when you tell me about all of these wonderful jazz musicians.
Yeah. Let's go back to James Ntume, late James Ntume. Uh, he was a Grammy Award-winning producer, songwriter, and all that. But he was the first artist that you handled, or something like that. Talk about him for a minute.
James Mtume will always be the shining light of my career. As you know, my background is in fashion designs. And Mtume's wife, which is Camille Mtume, and I became the best of friends. I used to do local fashion shows in the city of Newark, where 3 and 4 and 5,000 people would come out. I would bring the Beverly Johnsons and the Imans and all of the Seventh Avenue designers. And then they got a chance to come in and see Heavy D and the Boys, and to see Sybil and Carl Anthony Payne from Martin. And it went on and on and on. We then brought out, oh my God, we brought out so many celebrities. Then Mtume came to me. If you can do all this stuff with Camille, why can't you do it for me? I said, Camille, I said, Mtume, I don't know nothing about music. He said, well, maybe it's time that you learn. And I said, okay. I gave him 3 days out of the week. And listen, young publicists, I wasn't getting paid. Not a dime. I graduated from the Mtume school. I mean, I got a degree from James Mtume. Do you know anything about recoupment? Do you know anything about taxation? He gave this to me. He said to me, when you go inside of these boardrooms, you got to stand up and be counted for.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and then I started to manage Mtume, run his production company. And from that, I went on the road with him. I went on the road with him for about 5 years, on and off. I learned everything I needed to learn. And then it was an opportunity for Mtume to do the music soundtrack for the first major motion picture that Oprah Winfrey ever did, which was The Native Son. It starred Oprah Winfrey and Victor Love. Yes. It was the sound was done by Mtume. The music was done by Mtume. And here's a funny story. I didn't know anything about publicity. I was as blind to everything. Got to remember, maybe I'm 19, 20 years old. And he said, okay, you got to do the publicity. I said, what is publicity? He dug in his pocket, gave me $100. Here he goes. Yo, bro, you need to go down to that stand and buy some newspapers and magazines and focus into music and entertainment. But you know, back then in that day and time, there was no computers. You really had to do your work. You had to research, you had to find. And so my Pluto, I really wanted to impress him and let him know that I really appreciated everything that he was doing for me. So I did a bunch of cold calls. I called this one girl from the New York Times, bold of me, right? She had the worst cold. She coughed and coughed and coughed. I was able to get her first name and her last name and the address to the New York Times. She was coughing. She just cough, cough, cough. I said, I'm going to let you go. I got into the car and I went down to the drugstore and I bought 40 packs of cough drops. I went next door to the gift store and got a box. I drove to Federal Express and I overnighted these 40 packs of cough drops to this Miss Goldstein at the New York Times. 2 days later, she gave me a call. She said, young man, you didn't have to do this at all. I said, no, ma'am, I understand I didn't have to do it, but I wanted to do it. That's what it's all about. I wanted you to feel good, be good. And she said, thank you so very, very much. Now tell me, how can I help you? Oh, that was a door opener for me. Okay. Here goes James Mtume. Here goes the 2-time Grammy Award winner, #1. She said, well, just send me a little something. 4 days later, he had 2 full pages in the New York Times.
Wow.
So being aggressive and thinking outside of the box is always very important. Don't get mad because they don't know who you are. Don't become rambunctious and say things that you're going to feel that you should have never said. Just just ride it out and make a friend.
And you made a friend.
I met her and still communicate with her to this day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Still communicate with her to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's my Intume story. I'm still very closely associated with his family. I sit on his board of directors for the Intume Foundation.
Hmm.
I'm still very dear to his wife and to his children. We still are a family.
Nice. Nice. Let's move on to that guy who's behind you, the Vibe cover man, DMX. Let's talk about that because
I'm
this
gonna have some water on that one.
I know you will, because you had to do a lot of damage control with the late DMX. But how do you remember him as a person, though? How was it?
Um,
Go ahead.
I remember him as a kind, loving,
Hmm.
compassionate, give back kind of guy. I remember he would always say to me every week, Angelo, did you pay my tithes? And I would go, yes, Earl, I paid your tithes. He gave so much money to churches across the country. Wherever he would go, if he was on tour, he would go to church. And he went to church each and every time. You see, we cast out people that we cast them out because they've done or they've gone through the trial or tribulations of drugs or whatever it is. We cast them out. We don't want to be bothered with them. But they have the same heart that you have. They have the same hope. They have the same soul that you have. They're just going through what they're going through. And every time that we would get into an argument, and that was almost every day, he would say to, no, I would say to him, I was like, Earl, did you pray today? And he goes, Ansel, no, I didn't. Maybe, come on, man, let's pray. Pray these demons out of me. Um, we would pray. We would pray. It was really rough and very difficult for me because while I had the 29 employees, I really didn't like doing what I was doing with them. It was kind of crazy there for me. But I took time to understand coming from Newark, New Jersey, and there's so many friends that I had in my life that had an addiction, and I didn't run from them. And I would just sit back and have conversations with the man above, and he would tell me what I needed to do. I needed to be comforting. I needed to be able to listen. I needed to be able to resolve whatever the situation was. And all Earl wanted was somebody to talk to, someone to believe in him, someone that cared for him. And I remember calling back to my office manager and say, I don't know how much longer I could take this one. And he said, oh, I can tell you how long you can take it. You got 29 people here that you got to take care of. So I'll see you later. I'll talk to you later. Just stay. So with Earl, it was really, I mean, you had the pleasures of being with him on a couple of occasions. So,
Oh,
my God, you
oh
did.
Lord.
Oh,
Oh,
Jesus. I think he was there to do a show, right? He came
yes.
to
Yes.
Chicago to do a show, right?
Yes.
And then I was living in Chicago for maybe a half a year with DMX because he was out there trying to pull the album together that took forever for him to do. I think he was staying in Mariah Carey's home. I think I stayed in a hotel because there was a whole lot of people staying in the house. But
Oh.
yeah, I remember absolutely. I do remember you and I coming together and me introducing you to him. And then you gave me an opportunity to have him to come up to meet the president and CEO of Jet and Ebony Magazine. Yeah, I remember.
Yes. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think he fell in love with her or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Mary J. Blige. This is the last one. Um, can you recall your first meeting with Mary
Oh
J. Blige?
boy, can I recall my first
Come
meeting?
on, y'all.
So, my office was on 7th Avenue,
Yes.
and you would I think we were on the second floor. So when you got off the elevator, you were in my office. So I was standing at the front desk talking to the receptionist about something, telling her that Mary should be here at 1 o'clock. She wasn't there at 1 o'clock. She wasn't there at 1:30. Now it's 2 o'clock, and she comes
Mm-mm.
off the elevator, and she goes, "Well, is Angelo here?" And I turned around and said, "No, but Mr. Ellerbee is." She said, whatever. I said, oh, babe, I'm not a whatever. I'm never going to be a whatever. And I am Angelo Ellerbee. And addressed me accordingly. I said, and since you're 1 hour late, let's try to do this tomorrow. I'm going to the Carnegie Deli to have lunch. Next day, she was there 2 hours before the time. My mom always told me, it's how you start is how you finish. And from that day, we fell in love with each other. We loved each other. We were friends. We were open and honest. And I would read to her. She would read to me. She would tell me that she hated doing interviews. And I would say, is this why? And I would show her videos, interviews that she had done with awkwardly, letting her see all the dispositions and her cussing this without. But these were the things, these were my tools that was going to discourage her and make her consciously aware of where your responsibility lies. You see how you sit in that chair? I could see your tonsils. And she'll go, oh my God. I was like, yeah, look, here's a picture. And I would take pictures during the whole session. It was a 2.5 hour session. And I would give it to her and say, here's your homework. And look at yourself. And she would smile. But yeah, that was my first meeting.
Yeah. So was that basically artist development? What you were
I
doing?
had an artist development program. It was a 24-week artist development program. That taught you diction, speech, mannerisms, taxation, royalties, benefits, the whole bit. So I think Mary did up to 17 classes, and then she went out on the road. The lovely thing about her, I remember her calling me from the road and simply saying, I got to do this interview for this person, this person. Can you fly out here? I said, girl, no, I ain't flying out there. You can handle it. Handle it. I said, when you get to the location, call me. And she did. She said, should I ask them for the questions? I said, why do you want the questions up front? This ain't no interview, girl. It's a conversation. Go have a conversation to meet somebody new. And now, today, what? An Oscar-nominated actress.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes. So now, double exposure, the name is very unique. How did the name come about, and why didn't you even use your name, Angelo Ellerbee Public Relations?
Because I lived and worked in white America. And I didn't want any discrimination to my company and to what I was trying to do. So when I moved on to 7th Avenue, the building was owned by John Luray, which was an Italian guy. It was an Italian restaurant on the first floor. I was on the second floor. So I knew that if I went inside of this restaurant seeking to talk to them about renting out the space, I would never get the space. So I called my friend, my white friend, who was an attorney, an Italian. He came up with his assistant and met this landlord, John Luray. They walked through the whole facility. They took little snapshots for me in the whole of the bit. And I'm standing outside next door. They came back. He said, here's the pictures. He said, and if you want it, they say it's yours. I had no money. I didn't have a dime. I didn't have a nickel. And this is how wonderful God works. So this guy from Switzerland called me. He said, Angelo, I'm looking for some established artists that has music that they haven't released. So I said, oh my God, oh my God. Now I'm still trying to find the money to give to this man for the rent.
Right.
Oh, full force. Let me call full force. I called Paul Anthony. I said, there's a gentleman that just called me. Do you guys have any unreleased music? Blah, blah, blah. He said, yeah, Angelo, we got tons of it. I said, hold on. Now you remember I ain't have a dime, but I'm about to move into this one floor, 22,500 square feet office space. So they had conversation on the phone and they agreed that they were going to do business. So I said to the guy, look, while y'all doing your business, I need to have $40,000 wired to my account by tomorrow. Since I introduced you to Paul, Paul is paying me a fee and you're going to pay me a fee. Now, the deal can't go down until I get my money. So here's my banking information, and I will be at the bank tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The money was in the account.
Okay, okay.
And I was able to give to Ed a check. And we moved in.
Wow.
And we moved in with nothing, no furniture, no nothing. But I had great friends. It was a friend of mine, Byron Barnes, who believed in me more than I think I believed in myself. He said, oh, we can do this. We can do this. And he created this incredible atmosphere for me. Everything in my office was all white. He said, fake it until you make it. We got to make this place look incredible. And that's what he did. He made it look incredible. People used to come all around just to see the office. They didn't believe when everybody would come back and tell, but God is amazing. And he took me, yeah, he's amazing. And then everybody started to come, the Genuines, the Jodeci's, the Totals, the Patras, the Shabarangs, the Marleys, the Della Marley, Rita Marley, all the Marley sons. Went on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, yeah. I want to move to thoughts about your mother and her words of wisdom, especially when you were forced to move from one of your New York offices back to Jersey or something like that. What did she tell you when you called her up on the
Oh,
phone?
Clarence,
Come on now.
my mother was hilarious. So I've been in this office space for 27 years. I invested $2.5 million in a DMX movie, thinking that I would double that. You know, uh, I wasn't able to double it. I lost it. I lost it and I had to file bankruptcy. So I called my mother up and I said, Ma, she said, yeah, what, my last born? She called me a last born and said, instead of saying Angelo Ellerbee, which is my nickname, she said, I'm in the kitchen cooking these greens and I'm just seasoning them. And I'm setting up dinner for Sunday. She said, so whatever you got to say, hurry up and say it. Because I got, I'm cooking. So I said, Mama, I got to move out of this space. She said, what do you mean? I said, I lost my money. She said, what do you mean you lost your money? She said, well, what, don't you want to go find your money if you lost it? I said, Mama, ain't no finding of it. She said, okay, quick. She said, speed this story up. Speed it up, buddy. She said, let me tell you, where did you start this business at? I said, in the basement of the house. She said, okay, pack that mess up. All of that mess you got in there, go find you another place. And my greens is burning and I got to go. Click.
Ooh.
And I said, oh my God, did she just hang up on me? The realness of that was simply saying, I taught you how to defend for yourself. I dare you call me on the phone and be saddened and depressed. Get you off your behind and go do what I taught you to do. My mother would say to me, I did not birth you to be a follower. I birthed you to be a leader. Lead. She would say that to me constantly. You're not nobody's follower. Lead. Lead. Yes, Mama.
Mm.
That's the mother I had. My mother used to come in my room when I was 5 years old till I was about 15 years old. And she would come in and say, my mother was a waitress. She would come in about maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And she would say, hey, last born, did I tell you I love you? I said, Mama, it's 5:30 in the morning. No, you ain't telling me you love me. And she said, well, I want to let you know I love you. I go out there and make a great day for yourself. Okay? Yes, Mama. All right, bye, Mama. See ya. That's the kind of thing that I think that is missing today. Our children need to be loved, and we don't need to assume the love. We need to hear the love. It needs to be vocal. I love you. That's a
Mhm.
motivation. That's an inspiration. That's saying that I'm not out here doing it to myself or for myself. I'm out here doing it together as a family. So yeah.
Amazing. She's amazing.
Oh boy, she was a pistol.
Um, I was channel surfing recently, and I stopped by ABC,
Oh,
and I saw Cynthia Erivo, the great actress and
yes,
singer, and she was being honored during the Out 100.
yes.
And then I know that you had mentioned that to me as something, but you
Mhm.
didn't mention a TV special.
Yes.
So I'm just sitting there and I said, well, they'll get to the names of others. Among the 99 others will be listed.
Yeah, right.
Oh no. Oh no. I'm looking, all of a sudden there's a video of Angelo Ellerbee. I said, what is going
Oh
on?
my God.
That
Yeah.
was a beautiful moment for me to watch that. But how do you feel about that moment?
I felt the
Come
same way,
on.
Clarence. You know, as I celebrate now going into my 56th year in this business, I felt rewarded when I saw that. I did. And I'm not being braggadocious, but I'm telling you, I felt rewarded and appreciated. And I
Mm,
felt accomplished.
yeah.
Um, that it was not, it was a national thing that people were seeing what I was doing for my community and how hard I'm working to serve communities and how I want for better life in communities. Oh, I was very proud. And I asked myself as I said, self, what would Eva Leek Ellerby say to me today?
Mm,
She would have said, my last born, I'm proud of you. I told you that you were great because you was my child. And I told you you're going to learn to be greater, but I want you to be the greatest. And that's something that turns in my head each and every single day when I hear the voices of my mother.
mm. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
my mother was everything to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now you also had a street named after you in your hometown. Tell us about that. You've had an amazing year,
Oh, I have
one
had an
honor
amazing year.
after another, you
Yeah,
know?
there was a wonderful lady, councilwoman, Louise
Mhm.
Roundtree.
Mm.
She had called me up and she was like, oh, I think she calls me her husband. And she said to me, she said, you know, we were in council meeting and we were talking about street renames. And some lady that I know you don't know from McKenna Wet Paint said, how are we not honoring Angelo Ellerbee? Because Louise and I are very good friends. She said, I want to ask the same question. So, you were supposed to be either 80 years old or dead.
Oh, that's the criteria. Okay, I
Yeah, that's
didn't
the
know that.
criteria.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, I'm not 80 yet, and I'm not dead. So they went to the mayor, and then they had a vote. And so the street that I was born and raised on, Tracy Avenue in Newark, is now called the Angelo Ellerbee Way. So yeah, and that was such a special day for me, Clarence. Oh my God, it was hosted by June Ambrose, someone that I brought into the industry, and Constance White, which is the former editor of Essence magazine, and the mayor and the governor, and so many people just came out. And I was like, wow, really? These people out here? I mean, consciously, I have to say these things to myself. What? How do these people know me? I don't know. I don't know half of these people. The great thing is that people that I grew up with that still lived on this block, they were out there in numbers. They were out there in numbers. People that, I mean, I used to play with, all grown up now with their own children and grandchildren. They were there. And it was wonderful. It was totally wonderful.
Wow.
I saw my mom, you envision so many things when you're in that kind of surrounding. And what we had to do every single night is when my mother would come in from the restaurant, we had to meet her on the corner. And as I was making this speech, I could have sworn I saw my mother coming up the street. I could have sworn I saw my youngest sister coming up the street. My nephews were no longer. It was like a family reunion. It was the most, oh, wow. And then I had to catch myself because I almost started crying because I was seeing the reunion of my family come together. All of those who had passed, especially my two nephews who I called my sons, my mother, my sister. And I just said, wow, it's a family reunion. And when I said it in my speech, they didn't understand what I was saying. They thought I was talking about any people that were out there for me. No, I was talking about my family and the reunion of my family from the God above. Yeah.
Beautiful. That
Yeah.
is beautiful. My Lord. I'm almost done here, believe it or not. I want to talk to you about legacy. Legacy. How do you view your legacy, Angelo? How would you like to be remembered? I mean, these honors and all that, you sort of alluded to that, and they're everlasting. That streets naming will be there forever. How do you want to be remembered?
I would want people to remember me by understanding me and understanding me to the point that I love people. I love all of God's children because He created them, the magnificent God that He is. I don't want people to shy away from their own identity. I want people to be original and stand out. I want people who have given up on themselves to give themselves some chances. I would hope that I inspire people to believe in themselves. I pray every single day, that 45 minutes. And at one part in my prayer, I pray for the senior citizens. And I look at myself, I say, oh, I guess I'm a senior citizen now, but neither here or there. I pray and I said, God, the only one that knows what the expiration date of life is you. And I said, God, would you go by the homes and hospitals and hospices, hearts and minds and bodies and souls, and wake up these senior citizens? Take them out the wheelchair, take them off their crutches, from sitting in the windows, waiting for somebody to come to see them. Let them be entrenched in you. Let them dance, let them sing, let them be glorious. Let them go out in the world and be conquerors. Let them not think that they're old. I think it's all, Clarence, in your head, how old you are and how old you want to act. And I'm just saying there's no expiration. There's no expiration. And if it is, we don't know what it is. So go live a life. My legacy would be for people to live life, appreciate life, and thank God for the life that you have. That's what my legacy would be.
This is everything. Before we close, tell viewers how they can buy your book.
So we're on Amazon. Everybody knows how to get to Amazon. The
Yes.
book is #1 on Amazon, has been for a while. I am now on a book tour. I'm coming into Atlanta from the 3rd until the 8th of February. Then I go into South Carolina from the 10th of February to the 17th, and I'm speaking at schools. I want to thank all the people that have purchased this book. It's been unbelievable. I am now 1,500 books away from being a New York Times bestseller. It's been the most incredible thing in my life. Yes. It has been the Spirit of God. Nobody, listen, I'm nobody's born again Christian, but I do know who my keeper is. And I try to tell everyone, if you don't know him, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Go and introduce yourself to him. He'll love you too. He'll love you too. Introduce yourself. Life is too short.
Yeah.
And we have to live life, be life, give of life. So very important that we begin to live our lives I tell people so much. I am romantically in love with Angelo Ellerbee. I love me some me. And I am not being stuck on myself. If I can love me, I have learned how to love you and you and you and you. I can now be a consulate to listen to you of your trials and your tribulations because God told me self-preservation. I honor him first and then myself, and then I can honor and work with everybody else. It's just really important that we take the time to live life,
Yeah.
and worship.
Okay. That was very well said. There's no reason to ask the last question. Anything else that you want to say? Anything else? I think that we've covered it all.
Yeah, I think you have definitely did, as a journalist, did your homework, Mr. Waldron.
Okay, well, I thank you very much for being here, Angelo. It's our first time, interviewing or having a
This is my
conversation.
first time having one of my dearest friends interview me. It's been
Yes,
very hard.
yes, yes.
It's kind of hard when we talk about so many other things, and then when
Exactly.
it gets down to this,
I learned a lot about you that I
well,
had
thank
no
you very
idea.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you very, very much. Thank
yeah.
you very much.
Thank you.
And thank your team, your wonderful team of professionals that support you in doing what you do. Tell them I say thank you. It didn't have to be, but it was. And because of you and them, my story is told. And I thank you both all for what you've done for me this evening.
Beautiful. Thank you. Listen, before we close, I want to send a quick thank you and acknowledgement out to Howard Sandifer and his wife, Darlene Sandifer. They are the founders of the Chicago West Community Music Center, a great school on the west side of Chicago. And this whole video podcast was their idea. They said, let's have lively conversation with newsmakers everywhere. So here we are. And I think that we had another lively conversation, thanks to Angelo. And meanwhile, I tell my viewers, please click like and subscribe. Please click
Bravo
like,
to Howard and his wife. Bravo, bravo, bravo.
and that is all, and that is why.
God bless you, Clarence.